My measure is really simple. I got a bunch of kids. Can they afford houses with full-time jobs at like 27, 28? And the answer is no way. And the answer is that 35-year-olds with really good jobs can't afford a house unless they stretch and go deep into debt. And I just think that's a total disaster.
I don't know what's been going on with Tucker Carlson, but he's basically more left-wing than the entire Democratic Party. Or at least he's able to critique capitalism way clearer and more effective than anybody running for any office in the Democratic Party, which is pathetic. During Tucker's talk on Turning Point USA, he touched on some of the Epstein stuff, but this part was the most important piece. Economics should be the focus point of anybody running for any office in the United States, because it doesn't matter how anybody feels about anything, what you call anybody. If they can't afford to live, then they're only living to die. Later on in this speech, he's going to talk about how the man running for mayor of New York City, Zohran Mamdani, who's a socialist, a bad socialist, someone who he's completely in disagreement with, but also is going to say how his policies actually make sense. This is not an endorsement of Tucker Carlson if he ever runs for president. This is more of a wake-up call as to how quote-unquote socialist policies are actually midline mainstream America if you just strip away what you call it. So let's watch these clips and I'll give my thoughts on it afterwards.
Like at some point, the basic economics really matter, and they matter because not that it's bad that rich people are getting richer, it's bad that everyone else is getting poorer. And it's especially bad the young people can't afford homes. Let me just put a very precise point on this. If you want a measure of how your economy is doing, I personally favor eliminating GDP as a measure. I don't even know what that is. It's clearly not relevant. They tell me Japan has a stagnant GDP. Have you been to Tokyo? It's the single most radicalizing experience you'll ever have because it's just so nice. You lost the war? Really? Can we lose a war and wind up like this? GDP. No. I don't know what even that is. The total economic activity. Oh, no. My measure is really simple. I got a bunch of kids. Can they afford houses with full-time jobs at like 27, 28? And the answer is no way. And the answer is that 35-year-olds with really good jobs can't afford a house unless they stretch and go deep into debt. And I just think that's a total disaster. That's a complete disaster. Why? Two reasons. One, if people don't own things, they don't feel ownership of the country they're in. And the country gets super volatile because people feel like they've got nothing to lose. When you have a lawn, trust me, you're thinking long term. Second, it's really hard to have a family without a house. It is. It's like super fun to live in an apartment if, there's like a bar downstairs, you're in a cool neighborhood. I'm in East Village. It's so cool. Try to have 3 kids. You're not going to have 3 kids there. You can't. Nobody wants to raise their kids in that neighborhood. Nobody wants to raise their kids in an apartment. People do it because they have to. Nobody wants to. People want a little house, not some McMansion, just a little normal house. That is the actual American dream. And that is what is totally unattainable for young people. And so the only young people in general that you will ever meet who have houses are young people whose parents helped them. And God bless their parents. That's a perfectly great thing to do for your kids. But most people's parents can't afford to do that because they're already in debt from their pointless college degree.
So in that part there, he's calling for living wage and free college. He sounds just like Bernie. But since his audience is conservative, he can't just call his policies socialist or left wing because he knows he's going to get booed. But that's okay because the policies matter more than what you describe them as, at least in the long term, because you have to just meet people where they are. It doesn't matter what they supported or who they supported or what party they support or what they call themselves. Everyone basically agrees you shouldn't have to work yourself to death just to barely survive. That's not a fringe idea. And also, you can't live in New York City, especially downtown, midtown Manhattan, and then be upset that you live in an apartment. There is no space to have a lawn anywhere. But even there, you're asking for rent to be affordable. These are all socialist policies, left-wing policies that he will call cuckoo or whatever if somebody else calls for it.
So that is a national emergency. And I know that there are certain cable channels that are spending all this time talking about, they're about to elect a socialist in New York City, which obviously I'm opposed to it. He's not even a real socialist. He's like a trainee vax, rich kid liberal guy.
Real quick, so is he saying right there, if Mamdani just comes out and says, no, I'm a socialist, forget the Democratic socialist, oh my God, kind of left of the Democratic, no, I'm a socialist. Would Tucker actually support that? No, he would just say, oh my goodness, communism, Venezuela. But to say, And he's not even a real socialist. Are you admitting that being a socialist is the better position? Or does he just know how to sell these popular, actually good for people policies to his conservative audience, who would probably freak out if they found out that what Tucker's talking about is socialism for the most part?
Mom Donnie, he's a fake leftist, but whatever. Why do you think that's happening? One of the reasons it's happening is because normal people with normal jobs no longer believe they can win in this system, and that all the money is going to the worst people. And no one even stops to ask, what the hell is going on? How did Bill Ackman get so rich? I mean, I know he went on CNBC and talked down Herbalife. Bet against companies by driving down their stock prices. That's what he's been accused of. I'm not accusing him here because he's sue me if I do. I'm just suggesting others believe that might have happened. He's already threatened to sue me for saying that. But there are plenty of people who do that. And I'm not saying even that it should be illegal. What I'm saying is that our leadership class should say something about it and should assign a moral value to it. And if you're getting rich by loaning money to people at incredibly high interest rates, that's something you're going to have to talk to God about. That is not good. That is not virtuous. That's disgusting. And the fact that nobody feels free to say that, nobody feels like you can just say 30% on a credit card? Why is anybody paying a credit card bill? I said to somebody recently, I feel like I'm very moderate and sensible and, well, yeah.
So there you have it, folks. Tucker Carlson is to the left of the Democratic Party, and he's calling those policies moderate. So we have two right-wing parties, and they're both going off the deep end, trying to figure out which of them is going to be worse, or the lesser of two evils. That's so ridiculous. At least Mamdani in New York City is trying to fight for something. Free buses. It should be free public transportation, period. But he's starting at free buses because it's easier to understand and it seems like it's more contained. One public grocery store in every borough. So 5 public grocery stores. And there's no need to ask how are we going to pay for that because we already subsidize giant corporate chain grocery stores. These are actually moderate positions that will work in every city in the country. Do you think Mamdani's model, and now the Tucker model, quote unquote, will be repeated and copied all throughout the country? And if so, do you think right-wingers, Republicans, are going to be trying to outflank Democrats on economics? Because that's what Trump did in 2016. He called for healthcare for everybody. He called for higher wages. He called for lower taxes. Obviously, he lied and wasn't going to ever do any of that because he was bribed not to. But on the campaign trail, he knew that those were popular positions. Why don't Democrats? Because they're paid losers. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. And if you're watching this far, you might as well like the video and subscribe to the channel. Peace.